The scent of warm vanilla and melting chocolate was usually enough to fill Tommy Miller's small bakery, Tommy's sweet treats with a comforting glow. But today the air hummed with a different kind of energy, a nervous excitement that made his hands tremble slightly as he sifted flour. He'd been baking since he was old enough to stand on a stool and reach the counter, learning from his grandmother, whose hands he swore could magic anything delicious into existence. Baking wasn't just a job for Tommy. It was his heart, his soul, his quiet rebellion against a world that often felt too loud and chaotic. Not from Mrs. Henderson wanting her usual lemon meringue pie, or young Timmy's mom ordering a superhero birthday cake. This call was different. It was from a gravelly-voiced man, formal and precise, asking if Tommy Miller was the baker, known for his extraordinary bespoke creations. Tommy, wiping flour from his brow, confirmed he was. "Excellent," the voice continued. "Mr. Presley has a special request." Tommy nearly dropped his whisk. "Presley? The king," his mind raced. Elvis lived in Memphis, of course, just a drive away. But for a small-town baker like him, the idea of Elvis Presley, even knowing his bakery existed, was like finding a golden ticket. Indeed, Mr. Presley is celebrating a quiet milestone and wishes for a cake that is truly unique, reflecting his appreciation for the finer, more comforting things in life. He heard about your peach cobbler cake from a mutual acquaintance. Tommy's peach cobbler cake was legendary in his little corner of Tennessee, a recipe passed down through generations, combining the warmth of a classic cobbler with the elegance of a tiered cake. But for Elvis, he's such an impossible expectation. I can certainly try." Tommy finally managed, his voice barely a whisper. The man on the phone, a Mr. Evans, gave him specific instructions. No photos, no social media posts, complete discretion. The cake needed to be ready in 2 days. He provided an address. Tommy jotted it down, his hand shaking so much the ink blurred on the page. After the call ended, Tommy stood in the quiet of his bakery, surrounded by the familiar tools of his trade. But everything felt different. The air crackled with possibility and pressure. This wasn't just another order, the one that could define his career or haunt him forever. He started brainstorming immediately. Elvis, what would the king like? Something grand, yes, but also personal, heartwarming. Not just a showstopper, but a taste of home. His peach cobbler cake, yes, but elevated, perhaps with a hint of something southern, something comforting yet undeniably luxurious. He thought of bourbon, pecans, maybe a touch of brown sugar frosting that wasn't too sweet but rich and decadent. Pulled out his grandmother's old recipe book, its pages dog-eared and stained with years of love and flour. He traced the familiar lines of the peach cobbler cake recipe, then started sketching variations, cross-referencing ingredients, imagining flavors dancing on Elvis's tongue. He spent hours researching Elvis's favorite foods, finding snippets about banana pudding, peanut butter, and banana sandwiches. Gave him an idea. What if he infused a subtle hint of banana into one of the layers, not overwhelming, but a gentle nod? The excitement was contagious. He felt a surge of creative energy he hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't just about making a cake. It was about telling a story of southern comfort, of genuine artistry, of a baker's quiet dream coming true. He decided on a 3-tier cake. The bottom tier, his classic peach cobbler, but with Georgia pecans. The middle, a rich, dark chocolate cake infused with a hint of bourbon. For that touch, a delicate vanilla bean cake with a subtle banana cream filling. A gentle, surprising homage, all covered in a velvety, not too sweet, cream cheese frosting, smooth as silk. As he meticulously measured flour, cracked eggs, and blended butter, Tommy poured every ounce of his passion into the batter. Each stir, each fold was a prayer, a hope, a piece of his heart. He wasn't just making a cake for a celebrity. He was crafting a piece of edible art for a legend, a man who, despite his fame, surely craved simple, honest joy. The pressure was immense, but so was the honor. He knew deep in his baker's soul that this cake had to be perfect. It had to be unforgettable. The morning sun, usually a welcome guest in Tommy's bakery, felt like a spotlight on his every move. Today was baking day for Elvis's cake, and the air was thick with the silent expectations he'd placed upon himself. He'd barely slept, his mind buzzing with frosting, consistency, crumb structure, and the perfect balance of flavors. He even dreamt of Elvis, not singing on stage, but quietly enjoying a slice of cake, a contented look on his face. Tommy started with the peaches. Not just any peaches. He'd driven an extra hour yesterday to a specific orchard known for its late season. Incredibly sweet and juicy peaches. He peeled them carefully, the soft fuzz tickling his fingertips, slicing them into uniform wedges. He then sautéed them lightly with brown sugar, a touch of cinnamon, and a tiny splash of Kentucky bourbon, just enough to enhance the fruit, not overpower it. The aroma alone was intoxicating, a promise of southern warmth. Next came the cake batters. He started with the largest, the peach cobbler layer. Using his grandmother's recipe, he mixed the butter and sugar until light and fluffy, then added the eggs one by one, watching the emulsion transform into a creamy golden batter. The flour was sifted multiple times, ensuring aeration and a tender crumb. Finally, the prepared peaches and toasted Georgia pecans were gently folded in, creating a beautiful marbling effect. He poured the batter into the greased and floured 10-inch pans, his movements precise and deliberate. For the middle layer, the dark chocolate and bourbon cake, Tommy chose a high-quality Dutch processed cocoa powder, giving the cake a deep, intense chocolate flavor, without bitterness. He melted unsalted butter with the chocolate, creating a rich, glossy mixture that smelled heavenly. When he added the bourbon, it wasn't just for flavor. He imagined it adding a sophisticated depth, a nod to Elvis's own refined tastes. This batter was denser, darker, promising a decadent experience. He carefully poured it into the 8-inch pans. The smallest top tier was the vanilla bean and subtle banana cream filling. Tommy used real vanilla bean paste, its tiny black flecks visible in the pale batter, promising true vanilla flavor. He wanted this layer to be light, almost airy, a delicate contrast to the richer layers below. For the banana element, he decided against putting actual banana into the cake batter itself, fearing it might brown too quickly or become too dominant. Instead, he planned a delicate banana cream filling, made with perfectly ripe bananas and a touch of rum, folded into a light whipped cream to be layered between the cake sections after baking. This way, the banana would be a surprising, gentle whisper, not a shout. He poured this into the 6-inch pans. As the cakes baked, the bakery filled with an incredible symphony of aromas. Sweet peaches, dark chocolate, and warm vanilla. Tommy kept a close eye on the oven, adjusting temperatures, rotating pans, ensuring an even bake. He pictured Elvis, a legend, sitting down to eat a piece of this cake. The thought fueled his focus, pushing him to perfection. He even talked to the cakes, whispering encouragement, as if they were living things. "Come on, little beauties," he murmured. "Be perfect for the king." Once the cakes were out of the oven, golden brown and fragrant, he let them cool completely on wire racks, resisting the urge to touch them too soon. Patience was a baker's virtue, especially when crafting a masterpiece. While they cooled, he started on the frosting, a velvety, not too sweet cream cheese frosting. He wanted it to be smooth and spreadable, but stable enough to hold the weight of 3 tiers. He used European butter, cream cheese at room temperature, and a delicate touch of powdered sugar, ensuring it wasn't overly sweet. The key was to balance the richness of the cakes. Then came the assembly. This was where artistry met engineering. Carefully leveled each cake layer, ensuring a perfectly flat surface. He brushed a light, simple syrup on each layer to ensure moisture. He spread the peach cobbler cake with a thin layer of cream cheese frosting. Then, a generous amount of his homemade peach filling. Then, more frosting. On the chocolate layer, he used a chocolate ganache filling before the frosting. For the vanilla layer, he prepared the delicate banana cream filling carefully, piping a dam of cream cheese frosting around the edge of the cake layer to hold the soft filling in place, then gently spooning the banana cream into the center. Stacking the tiers was the most nerve-wracking part. He used dowels for support, pushing them gently through the center of each lower tier to support the weight of the one above. Slowly, carefully, the cake began to take shape. A grand, impressive structure, yet radiating warmth and care. The final coat of frosting was applied with a long offset spatula, smoothing it around the sides and top, creating a flawless, pristine surface. Kept the decoration minimal, but elegant. A simple border of pipe frosting, and perhaps a delicate, edible gold dusting for that touch of king sparkle. As he stood back admiring his creation, Tommy felt a profound sense of accomplishment. It wasn't just a cake. It was a culmination of his dreams, his grandmother's legacy, and an immense honor. The bakery was quiet again, but this time the quiet felt triumphant. The cake, a majestic three-tiered masterpiece, gleamed under the lights, ready for its journey to Graceland, ready for Elvis. The drive to Graceland was a blur of nervous anticipation and meticulous care. Tommy had custom-built a special box for the cake, ensuring it was secure and insulated. He'd even adjusted the air conditioning in his old delivery van to a perfect chill, worried about the frosting melting in the warm Tennessee air. Every bump in the road felt like a personal affront, every turn taken with extreme caution. He rehearsed what he would say, how he would present the cake, 1,000 scenarios playing out in his mind. Finally, the iconic stone gates of Graceland appeared in the distance. They seemed to shimmer in the morning light, larger than life, just like the man who lived beyond them. Tommy took a deep breath, his heart thumping against his ribs like a drum solo. Pulled up to the security booth a respectful distance away from the throng of tourists already gathering camera flashes. Popping like fireflies, a uniformed guard, a man with a stern but not unkind face, approached his window. "Can I help you, sir?" "Yes, good morning," Tommy stammered, his voice a little higher than usual. "I'm Tommy Miller from Tommy's Sweet Treats. I have a delivery for Mr. Presley." He gestured vaguely to the back of his van where the cake sat majestic and vulnerable. The guard's expression softened slightly. "Ah, the baker. We've been expecting you." He checked his clipboard, then waved Tommy through the gate. Past the curious glances of the tourists, Tommy felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with disbelief. He was actually driving into Graceland. He followed a winding driveway past manicured lawns and stately trees until he reached the mansion itself. It stood grand and dignified, a symbol of an empire, yet somehow in person it felt more like a very large, elegant home. A different man dressed in a sharp suit was waiting for him at the entrance. This must be Mr. Evans, the one who called. Mr. Evans was precisely as Tommy remembered him from the phone call. Formal, efficient, and radiating an air of quiet authority. "Mr. Miller, welcome. Thank you for coming." His eyes briefly flickered to the van, a hint of expectation in them. "The cake is in here," Tommy said, opening the back of the van with trembling hands. The elaborate cake box was carefully lifted out, Tommy supporting it from underneath, Mr. Evans taking a corner. Together, they carried the precious cargo through the front door of Graceland, past the famous stained glass peacocks, and into a spacious, elegant dining room. The room was bathed in soft light, reflecting off polished wood and crystal. A large table, already set with exquisite china, waited. Tommy carefully placed the cake box onto a side table. Taking a deep breath, he slowly opened the box, revealing the masterpiece within. Cake, illuminated by the room's gentle light, looked even more magnificent than it had in his bakery. The rich, smooth cream cheese frosting, the subtle shimmer of edible gold dust, the perfect tiers. It was everything he had envisioned. The faint, sweet aroma of peach chocolate and vanilla wafted through the room. Mr. Evans peered down at it, a rare, small smile gracing his lips. "It's quite splendid, Mr. Miller, truly." His eyes scanned the details, lingering on the delicate piping. "Mr. Presley will be most pleased." Tommy felt a wave of relief so profound it nearly buckled his knees. "Thank you, sir." I put a lot of care into it. The bottom tier is a peach cobbler cake with pecans. The middle is dark chocolate bourbon, and the top is vanilla bean. With a banana cream filling, he explained the flavors, hoping his voice didn't betray his lingering nerves. Just then, a door at the far end of the room opened. Tommy's heart leaped into his throat. A figure appeared silhouetted against the light from a hallway. He was taller than Tommy expected, broader, and his presence immediately filled the room. Even in casual clothes, a crisp, open, collared shirt, and dark trousers, there was no mistaking him. It was Elvis Presley. Tommy froze suddenly, feeling like a small, insignificant speck of flour. He'd seen countless pictures, heard endless songs, but nothing prepared him for the sheer charisma that emanated from the man. Elvis's eyes, a striking blue, scanned the room, then landed on the cake. His famous lips curved into a slow, genuine smile. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Elvis's voice, deeper and more resonant than any record, filled the room. He extended his hand, a warm, firm grip. "Tommy," Elvis said, his smile widening, "it's an honor to meet the man behind such a magnificent creation. That cake, it looks like a dream." Tommy could only nod, speechless. King of rock and roll was shaking his hand, calling his cake a dream. This wasn't just a delivery anymore. This was something else entirely. The air in the room, already charged, now thrummed with a new thrilling possibility. Tommy's hand still tingled from Elvis's handshake. He stood there frozen in a silent daze, watching the king walk around the table, admiring the cake from every angle. Elvis's presence was like a warm current, filling the room with an almost tangible energy. He wasn't just a performer. He was a force of nature, yet with an unexpected gentleness in his eyes. "So, Tommy," Elvis said, his voice rich and melodic, "Mr. Evans tells me this is a peach cobbler, chocolate bourbon, and vanilla bean." With clearly put a lot of thought into it, he turned back to Tommy, a curious glint in his eye. "What made you choose those particular flavors?" Tommy swallowed, trying to steady his voice. "Well, Mr. Presley, I wanted something that felt like home, something comforting. The peach cobbler is a family recipe, very dear to me. The chocolate bourbon felt right for a celebration, a touch of elegance. And banana. I know you're a fan of bananas, and I wanted to include a subtle nod, something that would surprise and delight." "Not a worry?" Elvis listened intently, a thoughtful expression on his face. He nodded slowly. A subtle nod. "I like that, Tommy. A lot of folks go overboard. But sometimes it's the quiet touches that mean the most, ain't it?" He reached out his finger, hovering just above the smooth frosting, as if resisting the urge to touch it. "It looks too beautiful to cut." Tommy chuckled. A nervous, breathless sound. "That's the highest compliment, sir." Elvis smiled, a genuine, heartwarming smile that reached his eyes. "And perhaps sharing it with me." Tommy's jaw nearly dropped. He blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Share it with Elvis, right here, right now in Graceland. This wasn't part of the plan. Plan was to deliver the cake, say thank you, and quietly leave his mind. Raced, he had other deliveries, other things to do. But those thoughts were quickly overridden by a powerful surge of disbelief and excitement. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. "Me?" Tommy stammered, pointing to himself. You want me to stay?" Elvis laughed, a deep, easy sound that instantly put Tommy a little more at ease. "Of course, Tommy, you made the cake, didn't you? It's only right that you get to enjoy the first taste. Besides," he winked, "I'm curious to hear what the artist thinks of his own masterpiece." Mr. Evans, ever efficient, was already on the phone giving instructions. He looked at Tommy with a slight nod, an unspoken message of encouragement. Tommy felt a warmth spread through him, chasing away some of the initial nervousness. This wasn't just a celebrity being polite. This felt like a genuine invitation, a human connection. I'd be honored, Elvis, truly." "Excellent." Elvis clapped his hands softly, a gesture of pure enthusiasm. "Come on, make yourself comfortable." He gestured to a chair at the grand dining table. Tommy hesitantly took a seat, feeling utterly out of place in his flour-dusted clothes and worn work shoes, amidst the polished elegance. Minutes later, a kind-faced woman from the kitchen, dressed in a white apron, brought out coffee and several exquisite porcelain plates. Mr. Evans handed Tommy a silver cake knife, its weight substantial in his hand. "All right, Tommy, the honor is yours," Elvis said, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. Tommy approached the cake, his hands still a little shaky, but now with a sense of purpose. He took a deep breath, centered himself, and with careful precision he cut a slice from the bottom tier, the peach cobbler layer. The knife slid smoothly through the tender cake, revealing the beautiful layers of fruit and pecans. He then carefully placed the slice onto a waiting plate, then another, handing one to Elvis, who watched with rapt attention. Elvis took the plate, his blue eyes still fixed on the cake. "Smells incredible," he murmured before taking his first bite. Tommy held his breath, watching the king's reaction. Elvis chewed slowly, thoughtfully, his eyes closing for a moment as if savoring every nuance of flavor. Then a slow, contented smile spread across his face. "Tommy," Elvis said, his voice laced with genuine pleasure, "that peach cobbler, it takes me right back to my grandma's kitchen. It's got soul. And that hint of bourbon, it's just perfect. Not too much, just enough to warm you. You, my friend, are a true artist." Tommy felt an immense wave of pride and relief wash over him. His eyes welled up slightly. To hear Elvis Presley, the king, say that about his cake, about his grandmother's recipe, it was more than any award, any recognition. It was everything. "Thank you, Elvis," Tommy managed, his voice thick with emotion. "That means the world to me. It's the truth," Elvis said, taking another bite. He gestured for Tommy to try his own slice. Tommy hesitantly picked up his fork, took a bite, and for a moment he forgot he was in Graceland, sharing cake with a legend. He was just a baker tasting the fruits of his labor, sharing a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. This impromptu invitation was turning into something far more profound than he could have ever imagined. Tommy took a bite of his own cake, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of Graceland, of Elvis Presley sitting across from him, faded. Tasted the rich, warm peaches, the hint of bourbon, the tender crumb of the cake, and he allowed himself to simply enjoy it. It was perfect. A sigh of satisfaction escaped him, and he looked up to see Elvis watching him, a twinkle in his eye. "See?" Elvis chuckled softly. "Even the baker can enjoy his own work. That's a sign of a good craftsman." He took another generous bite, leaning back in his chair, a picture of relaxed contentment. "So Tommy, tell me about your bakery. Tommy Sweet Treats. Right? How long have you been baking?" The conversation flowed surprisingly easily after that. Tommy, still slightly awestruck but gaining confidence with every passing minute, found himself talking about his passion. He told Elvis about growing up in his grandmother's kitchen, the smell of rising dough, the joy of creating something delicious from simple ingredients. He spoke of the small town where his bakery was the loyal customers, the challenges of running a small business, and the sheer delight he felt when someone truly appreciated his work. Elvis listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions. He wasn't just being polite. He seemed genuinely curious about Tommy's life, about the craft of baking. He shared a few anecdotes of his own, mostly about food from his childhood, about his mother's cooking and how he missed those simple, comforting tastes amidst his busy life. "And this cake," he gestured to the half-eaten slice on his plate, "this feels real. It tastes like someone put their heart into it." Tommy felt a lump form in his throat. "I did, Elvis. I really did. Every baker does, I think, when they truly love what they do. That's what I figured." Elvis nodded, his gaze softening. "It's funny, ain't it? You get everything you ever thought you wanted, And then you realize the simple things, the quiet moments, the taste of a homemade cake. Those are the real treasures. He paused, looking out the window towards the sun-drenched lawns. It's hard to find honest moments, Tommy. People change around you when you're well, when you're me. But you just brought me a cake and you talk about it like it's the most important thing in the world, which for a baker, I guess it is. He smiled. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Tommy was touched beyond words. He saw not just the global icon, but a man who, despite his immense fame, seemed to genuinely long for normalcy, for connection. It is the most important thing, Tommy agreed. To me, at least, to create something that brings joy, comfort. That's why I do it. They moved on to the second tier, to dark chocolate bourbon. Tommy cut a fresh slice for both of them. Elvis's eyes lit up again as he tasted it. Now that's rich, he exclaimed, savoring the deep chocolate flavor. And the bourbon. It's a subtle kick, isn't it? Not overpowering, just a warmth. I wanted it to be sophisticated, but still comforting, Tommy explained. Like a good old Southern gentleman. Elvis laughed, a hearty, genuine laugh that filled the elegant dining room. A Southern gentleman, huh? I like that. You know, you got away with flavors, Tommy. It's like you understand what people need even before they know it themselves. The hours seemed to fly by. They talked about music, not just Elvis's, but Tommy's quiet appreciation for gospel and blues, which Elvis seemed genuinely pleased to hear. They talked about Memphis, about the changing times, about dreams and disappointments. Tommy found himself sharing details of his life he wouldn't normally discuss with a stranger, let alone a legend. Elvis, in turn, was disarmingly open, speaking not as the king, but as a man searching for meaning, for connection. As the afternoon sun slanted through the dining room windows, painting the polished floors in gold, Elvis suddenly leaned forward, a serious look on his face. "Tommy," he began, "you know, my life gets hectic and sometimes you forget what real kindness feels like this cake. And our talk today, it's been real. And I don't get a lot of real these days." Tommy was stunned into silence once more. A private show with Elvis. This was beyond anything he could have ever imagined. He had come to deliver a cake, and now he was being invited to a private concert by the king himself. His heart swelled with an emotion that was a mix of awe, gratitude, and overwhelming disbelief. This isn't just a business transaction. It was the beginning of an extraordinary, unexpected friendship. Tommy barely remembered driving home from Graceland. His mind was a whirlwind of the past few hours. The grand dining room, the delicious cake, and most of all, the captivating presence of Elvis Presley. The king of rock and roll had invited him, a simple baker, to a private show. It felt like a dream he would wake up from at any moment. Back in his quiet bakery, the familiar scent of flour and sugar suddenly seemed muted. He tried to focus on his next orders, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Elvis's genuine smile, his thoughtful questions, the unexpected warmth in his voice. He realized that the Elvis he met wasn't just a flashy performer on stage, but a man seeking connection, authenticity, perhaps even a taste of the simple life he'd left behind. The next few days were a blur of nervous excitement. Tommy found himself humming Elvis tunes while he kneaded dough, even trying a few of his signature dance moves when no one was looking, only to nearly trip over a flour sack. Told his family, of course, but only in hushed, almost disbelieving tones, asking them to keep it a secret. They were thrilled for him, equally astonished. When the day of the private show arrived, Tommy dressed in his best, most comfortable suit, a dark blue one he usually saved for special occasions. He felt a nervous flutter in his stomach as he drove back towards Memphis, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and purple. This time he wasn't carrying a cake, but a heart full of anticipation. He arrived at a smaller, more intimate venue than he expected, one he hadn't even known about. A man from Elvis's security detail met him at the entrance, already expecting him. "Mr. Miller, welcome. Mr. Presley is expecting you." Tommy was led backstage past bustling crew members and musical instruments. He heard the muffled sound of a guitar tuning, then a voice unmistakably Elvis's, humming a gospel tune. Tommy's breath caught in his throat. He was led into a quiet lounge area, and there he was. Elvis, looking even more striking in a stage outfit, but still with that same approachable smile. He stood up, extending a hand. "Tommy, glad you could make it. Come on in, make yourself comfortable." There were a few other people in the room, mostly musicians and a few close friends. They all greeted Tommy warmly, already knowing who he was. The baker who made that incredible cake. Tommy felt a rush of warmth, a sense of being truly welcomed, not just tolerated. Elvis leaned in conspiratorially. "Tonight's just for fun, Tommy. No pressure, just good music and good company." Soon it was time for the show. Tommy was led to a seat in the front row, a prime spot. The lights dimmed, and then Elvis walked onto the small stage. The moment he stepped into the spotlight, he transformed. The quiet, thoughtful man Tommy had shared cake with was suddenly the king, electrifying medic, commanding the stage with every move, every note. He started with some of his classic rock and roll numbers, and Tommy found himself tapping his foot, then swaying, then clapping along with everyone else, but then Elvis slowed it down. He sang some gospel songs, his voice filled with a raw, powerful emotion that brought tears to Tommy's eyes. He sang ballads that were heartbreakingly beautiful, connecting with every single person in the room. On a deeply personal level, what truly struck Tommy was the authenticity of it all. This wasn't a performance for millions. It was a performance from the heart, for a select few. Elvis wasn't just singing. He was sharing a piece of his soul. Tommy saw the passion, the vulnerability, the sheer joy Elvis found in his music. He saw the man behind the legend laid bare by the power of his voice. During one of the slower songs, Elvis's eyes swept across the audience, and for a fleeting moment they met Tommy's. Elvis held his gaze, a small, knowing smile on his face, as if to say, "See, this is me. This is what I do." And Tommy, watching him, felt a profound connection, a shared understanding that transcended fame and everyday life. He wasn't just a fan in the audience, he was a guest, a friend, witnessing something truly special after the show. Tommy was invited backstage. The energy was different now, a relaxed camaraderie. Elvis was beaming, his face flushed with exertion but radiating happiness. "So Tommy," he said, clapping him on the shoulder, "what do you think? Did this baker approve of the music?" Tommy smiled genuinely. "Elvis, that was incredible, truly. I've heard your songs a million times, but to see you up close, feeling every note, it was a gift. Thank you." Elvis's smile softened. "If you're not too busy slinging dough, I'd love to show you around Graceland proper. Maybe even get a proper tour, not just the dining room. What do you say?" Tommy's breath hitched. Another invitation. This was becoming more than just a fleeting interaction. It was blossoming into a genuine, if unlikely, friendship. I'd love that, Elvis. Truly. I'd be honored." Elvis nodded, a twinkle in his eye. "Great Mr. Evans will call you with the details. For now, go get some rest. You've earned it." He shook Tommy's hand warmly, and Tommy, still buzzing from the music and the unexpected invitation, left the venue feeling as if he were walking on air. His life, he realized, was forever changed. Call from Mr. Evans came the very next morning, precise as always. Elvis wanted to show Tommy around Graceland the following afternoon. Tommy cleared his schedule without a second thought. This wasn't just a tour. It was an intimate glimpse into the world of a legend, a world that few ever truly saw. Driving up to Graceland this time, Tommy felt a different kind of calm. The initial awe and nervousness were still there, but now they were intertwined with a growing sense of comfort and curiosity. He was no longer just the baker delivering a cake. He was a welcomed guest. He was greeted, not by a security guard at the gate, but by Mr. Evans himself, who escorted him directly to the mansion. Inside, the grand entrance hall felt less imposing, more like a lived-in home, albeit a very opulent one. "Elvis is just finishing up some business in his office," Mr. Evans explained. He'll be with you shortly. Feel free to wait in the living room." Tommy stepped into the famous living room with its long white couch and stained glass peacocks. He looked around, trying to imagine Elvis truly living here, walking these halls, making this grand house his home. It felt surreal, like stepping into a historical photograph. Suddenly, a voice boomed from the hallway. "Tommy, you made it!" Elvis appeared wearing a comfortable-looking tracksuit, a wide, genuine smile on his face. He looked relaxed, almost boyish, without his stage makeup and elaborate costumes. "Glad you could come. Hope you're ready for the grand tour." He started in the living room, pointing out details, telling little stories about the furniture, the paintings, the flow of the house. He showed Tommy the music room with its grand piano, where he'd often sit for hours just playing and singing for himself or a few friends. "Sometimes," Elvis said, running a hand over the keys, "this is where I feel most at peace. Just the music. No crowds, no expectations. Just me." Tommy listened, captivated. He saw a man who loved his home, cherished his quiet moments, and was deeply connected to his roots. Elvis led him through the famous jungle room, explaining how he designed it himself, wanting a space that felt wild and fun. Tommy couldn't help but chuckle at the shag carpet and the Polynesian-themed furniture. "It's certainly unique," Tommy said, trying to be polite. Elvis roared with laughter. "Unique, you can say that again. But you know, sometimes you just gotta do what makes you happy, even if it's a little bit crazy. And this room, it just makes me smile." They walked through the kitchen, which surprisingly felt like a normal, albeit large, kitchen. Elvis pointed out where certain dishes were made, how he loved his southern cooking. He even joked about trying to bake once with disastrous results. "Leave the baking to you, Tommy," he quipped. "I'll stick to singing." Upstairs, Elvis showed him his private office where he conducted his business, and even a glimpse of his bedroom from the doorway, out of respect for his privacy. He spoke about the challenges of fame, the constant demands, the difficulty of maintaining a normal life. "Sometimes," he admitted, his voice softening, "it feels like the whole world is watching, and it can get lonely, even with all this." He gestured vaguely around the mansion. "That's why these quiet moments, like sharing cake or showing a friend around, mean the world." Tommy felt a profound sense of empathy. He'd never considered the loneliness of being Elvis Presley. From the outside, it looked like a life of endless adoration and excitement, but Elvis was showing him the unseen side, the human side, the cost of being the king. They ended up in the trophy room, a sprawling space filled with gold records, awards, dazzling jumpsuits, and memorabilia from Elvis's incredible career. It was overwhelming, a testament to his monumental success. Tommy stared awestruck. "This is amazing, Elvis. It's truly incredible what you've achieved." Elvis looked around the room, a complex expression on his face. Pride, certainly, but also a hint of weariness. "Yeah. It is sometimes I look at all this, and I still can't quite believe it's real. It all started with a kid from Tupelo, Mississippi, who just loved to sing. You know, seeing all this reminds me that every dream starts somewhere small. Like your bakery, Tommy, you started small with your grandma's recipes, and now you're making cakes for wealth for me." He winked. "You never know where your passion can take you." His words resonated deeply with Tommy. It was a powerful message, coming from Elvis Presley himself. Keep believing in your craft. Keep putting your heart into it, and you never know what extraordinary opportunities might come. As the afternoon drew to a close, Elvis walked Tommy back to his car. "Thanks for coming, Tommy," he said, his voice sincere. "It was good to have you here. It's always nice to have a real conversation with someone who understands what it means to put their heart into what they do." "Thank you, Elvis," Tommy replied, genuinely touched. "Thank you for everything, for the cake, for the show, for showing me around. It's been an experience I'll never forget." Elvis smiled, a knowing, almost melancholic smile. "Me neither, Tommy, me neither. He shook Tommy's hand warmly, a silent promise of an unexpected, enduring connection. Tommy drove away from Graceland, his mind filled with images of gold records and shag carpets, but most importantly with the image of a kind, thoughtful man who just wanted to share his home and a slice of his life with a baker who simply loved making cake. A few weeks after his Graceland visit, life at Tommy's Sweet Treats returned to its usual rhythm. The hum of the mixers, the scent of fresh bread, the familiar faces of his regular customers. It was comforting, but now infused with a quiet sense of wonder. Tommy often caught himself smiling to himself, remembering moments with Elvis, the casual conversations, the genuine laughter. It felt like a precious secret, a golden thread woven into the fabric of his ordinary life. Then another call came from Mr. Evans. Tommy's heart did a little flutter. A charity event. This was different from a private show or a home tour. This was a public appearance, even if a small one. He felt a familiar surge of nerves, but also immense curiosity. He wanted to see Elvis in his element, interacting with the world beyond Graceland. "I'd be honored, Mr. Evans," Tommy said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Please tell Elvis I'll be there." Saturday evening arrived, and Tommy, once again in his best suit, drove to a beautiful historic hall in downtown Memphis. It was elegantly decorated, filled with soft music and the murmur of polite conversation. As he stepped inside, he felt a little out of place among the city's elite and well-dressed philanthropists. But then a familiar voice called out, "Tommy, over here!" Elvis, looking resplendent in a tailored suit, was standing near a group of people, his smile as warm as ever. He excused himself from the conversation and walked directly towards Tommy. Extending his hand, "Glad you could make it, my friend. Come on, I want you to meet some folks." Elvis didn't just introduce Tommy as the baker. He introduced him as my friend, Tommy Miller, who made the most incredible cake I've ever tasted. He's a true artist, just like the best musicians. He spoke with such genuine warmth and pride that Tommy felt his cheeks flush. People looked at him with renewed interest, some recognizing his bakery name from local news. Tommy found himself shaking hands with senators, famous musicians, and important community figures. Elvis stayed by his side for a while, making sure he was comfortable, subtly deflecting too much attention from Tommy, while still highlighting his presence. Tommy observed how effortlessly Elvis navigated the room, how he charmed everyone he spoke to, yet always maintained a core of authenticity. He saw Elvis not just as a performer, but as a public figure, a man carrying the weight of his fame with grace. At one point, a reporter recognizing Elvis approached. "Mr. Presley, could you tell us a bit about what brings you out tonight?" Elvis smiled, turning slightly to include Tommy. He winked at Tommy. The reporter's eyes widened quickly, jotting down notes. Tommy felt the sudden rush of being in the spotlight, something he was entirely unaccustomed to. He managed a polite smile and a quick "Thank you, Elvis," feeling a blush creep up his neck. Later, during a quiet moment, as people mingled and moved towards the stage for some brief speeches, Tommy turned to Elvis. "Elvis," he began, "you didn't have to say all that about me, thank you." Elvis waved a dismissive hand. "Nonsense, Tommy. It's the truth. And besides," he leaned in his voice a low rumble, "it's good for people to know that the king appreciates good, honest work. And it's good for your business, isn't it? A little free advertising from yours truly." Tommy laughed. "Well, I suppose so, but it felt nice to be introduced like that." "You deserve it, Tommy," Elvis said, his expression serious. "You put your heart into what you do, and that's rare. People should know about it. Life's too short for anything less than passion, don't you think?" As the evening progressed, Tommy saw how Elvis managed his fame. He was gracious, attentive, and endlessly patient with fans and well-wishers, signing autographs, posing for pictures. But Tommy also noticed the subtle signs of fatigue, the moments when Elvis's gaze would drift to a quiet corner, a hint of weariness in his eyes. He carried the weight of being Elvis Presley every single moment he was in public, Yet throughout it all, Elvis made sure to check on Tommy, to include him in conversations, to make him feel like an essential part of the evening, not just an invited observer. It struck Tommy that despite all the grandeur and fame, Elvis was fundamentally a kind, generous man who genuinely valued connection and authenticity. He wasn't just inviting Tommy to witness his world, he was inviting him to share it even for a brief moment. As the event wound down, Elvis pulled Tommy aside for a quick farewell. "Tommy, thank you for coming tonight. It meant a lot to me to have you here." His grip was firm, his eyes warm. "I've got a busy few weeks ahead, more touring, more traveling. But I hope this isn't the last we see of each other. Keep baking, my friend. Keep putting that heart into it." "I will, Elvis," Tommy promised, a lump in his throat. "And thank you for everything." Tommy drove home, the city lights blurring outside his window. He hadn't just seen Elvis Presley, the legend. He had seen Elvis the man, the generous friend, the weary star, the genuine soul who yearned for real connections. And he realized that their unexpected friendship, born over a special cake, was one of the most precious things that had ever happened to him. The charity event marked a shift in Tommy's extraordinary journey with Elvis. Personal, intimate meetings at Graceland had given way to a glimpse of Elvis's public life, revealing the immense demands and the constant spotlight he lived under. Tommy understood now that while their connection was real and heartfelt, Elvis's world was vast and demanding a whirlwind of tours, appearances, and public expectations. A few days later, Mr. Evans called again. This time the tone was a little different, tinged with a note of finality. "Mr. Presley is preparing to leave for his next tour. He wanted to extend one last invitation before he departs. A quiet dinner at Graceland tomorrow evening. Just you and him. A final farewell before his schedule takes him away." Tommy felt a pang of sadness, but also deep gratitude. He knew this moment would come. Elvis had given him so much of his time and himself already. To be invited for a private farewell dinner was a profound gesture of friendship. He spent the next day preparing a small gift for Elvis, a beautifully bound handwritten recipe book filled with some of his grandmother's most cherished Southern dessert recipes, including, of course, the original peach cobbler cake recipe. He wrapped it simply, knowing the true value was in the personal touch. Arriving at Graceland for the last time, the mansion felt different. Less a place of nervous anticipation, more a place of quiet reflection. Mr. Evans met him, a slight smile on his face. "Mr. Presley is waiting for you in the dining room, Mr. Miller." Elvis was indeed in the dining room, dressed casually but elegantly. He rose as Tommy entered, his eyes warm and welcoming. "Tommy, glad you could make it. Come, sit. We're having some good old Southern fried chicken tonight. No fancy stuff, just comfort food." The dinner was relaxed, punctuated by easy conversation and shared laughter. They talked about everything and nothing. Tommy's bakery, Elvis's upcoming tour, destinations, old movies, life's simple pleasures. There was a comfortable silence that settled between them, a mark of genuine friendship. Tommy noticed Elvis seemed a little tired, but his eyes still held that captivating spark. Towards the end of the meal, Tommy presented his gift. "Elvis," he began, pushing the wrapped book across the table, "I wanted to give you something before you left. It's my grandmother's recipe book with some of her favorite Southern recipes." Elvis's eyes widened, and he carefully unwrapped the gift. He opened the book, his fingers tracing the handwritten recipes, his expression softening. "Tommy, this is truly special handmade from your grandmother. Thank you. This means more than any fancy gift." He looked up, his blue eyes holding a deep appreciation. "This is real. It's the least I could do," Tommy said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given me so much, Elvis, more than words can say." Elvis set the book down gently. "I'm going to miss our talks, our cakes," he smiled faintly. "Me too, Elvis," Tommy admitted, a lump in his throat. "Been life-changing. You've shown me a side of yourself I never imagined, and it's been an honor." a privilege. Elvis reached across the table, placing a hand on Tommy's arm. Keep baking, Tommy. Keep making those dreams happen, and never forget that the simple things done with love are often the most profound. Pulled a small engraved silver pick from his pocket, a guitar pick. Here, he said, pressing it into Tommy's hand. A little something to remember our friendship by. Maybe next time I'm in town we can have another slice of cake. Tommy held the pick, its cool metal a solid weight in his palm. It was a simple object, but infused with the essence of Elvis, a tangible reminder of their extraordinary bond. I'd like that very much, Elvis, Tommy managed, trying to blink back the moisture in his eyes. They sat for a while longer, sipping coffee, the conversation tapering off into a comfortable silence. There was nothing more to say, nothing more to do, but simply be in each other's company, savoring the last moments of their unexpected friendship. Finally, Elvis rose. Well, Tommy, it's been a real pleasure. You're a good man and a hell of a baker. He walked Tommy to the front door, the familiar stained glass peacocks shimmering in the soft evening light. As Tommy stepped outside into the cool night air, Elvis stood framed in the doorway, his silhouette against the warm glow of the mansion. Take care, Tommy. You too, Elvis. Take care. And thank you for everything. Tommy drove away from Graceland one last time, the silver pick clutched in his hand. He looked back at the iconic mansion slowly fading into the darkness. He knew their paths might not cross again in the same intimate way. Elvis was going back to his world and Tommy to his. But something fundamental had shifted within him. He had met the king, not as a fan, but as a friend. And that friendship had illuminated his own life, reminding him of the power of passion, kindness, and the extraordinary magic that can happen when you simply put your heart into what you do. The days and weeks after Elvis's departure settled into a new normal for Tommy. The bakery still smelled of vanilla and yeast. The customers still lined up for his peach cobbler pie, but everything felt richer, deeper. The experience of meeting Elvis, of sharing his world, hadn't just been a highlight, it had subtly reshaped Tommy's perspective on his own life and dreams. The silver guitar, pick a tangible piece of his extraordinary adventure, sat proudly on a shelf in his office next to a faded photograph of his grandmother. Sometimes, when the bakery was quiet, he'd pick it up, feeling its cool weight, remembering Elvis's warm smile and kind words. The recipe book handwritten by Tommy for Elvis was now a symbol of the profound exchange they'd shared. News of the charity event and Elvis's spontaneous mention of Tommy's sweet treats spread like wildfire through local papers and radio. People flocked to the bakery, eager to taste the cake that the king himself had praised. Business boomed. Tommy hired more staff, expanded his menu, and even started offering baking classes, sharing his grandmother's wisdom and his own newfound confidence. But beyond the commercial success, there was a deeper change. Tommy baked with a renewed sense of purpose. He understood now, more than ever, the power of food to connect, to comfort, to tell a story. Every cake wasn't just flour and sugar. It was an act of love, a piece of art, a potential bridge to another human heart. He remembered Elvis's words. Keep putting that heart into it, and he did. He still thought of Elvis often. He'd hear a song on the radio or see a magazine cover, and a pang of fond remembrance would echo through him. He knew the chances of their paths crossing again in the same intimate way were slim given Elvis's global fame and Tommy's quiet life. The friendship wasn't about proximity. It was about the connection forged, the lessons learned. One crisp autumn morning, several months after Elvis had left, Tommy was busy kneading dough when the phone rang. It was Mr. Evans. Tommy's heart leaped. Mr. Miller, good morning, Mr. Evans, began, his voice as formal as ever, but with a hint of warmth Tommy now recognized. Mr. Presley has just returned to Graceland for a brief respite between tours. He wanted me to call and relay a message. Tommy held his breath. Leaning against the counter, he said, Mr. Evans continued, a rare chuckle in his voice, that he's just finished the last of your grandmother's banana pudding recipe from the book you gave him, and he wondered quite specifically if Tommy's sweet treats might be able to whip up another of those extraordinary peach cobbler cakes for him. Tommy let out a whoop of laughter, a joyful sound that echoed through the bakery. "Tell him I'd be honored, Mr. Evans. Absolutely honored." "Excellent. I'll arrange a pickup for 2 days from now. And Mr. Presley also asked if you'd be available to share a slice with him again. Said he misses your company." Tommy felt tears welling up in his eyes, a rush of warmth spreading through him. "Tell him yes, Mr. Evans. Tell him I'll be there." It wasn't a permanent fixture in Elvis's life, nor did Tommy expect it to be. It was a reconnection, a continuation of a beautiful, unexpected friendship. Tommy realized that the farewell had not been an ending but a pause, a quiet assurance that some connections once forged with genuine heart could transcend distance, fame, and time. As he started gathering the ingredients for the peach cobbler cake, Tommy hummed an Elvis tune. He wasn't just baking a cake, he was rekindling a friendship, bringing comfort to a king and living a dream he never knew he had. The butter, sugar, and flour felt different today, imbued with a deeper meaning. They were not just ingredients, they were the alchemy of a heartwarming story, a testament to the power of kindness and the lasting sweetness of an extraordinary friendship born over a simple, perfect cake. And Tommy the baker knew with certainty that this was just the beginning of another delightful chapter in his wonderfully sweet life.